Hello guys, and welcome back to our other episode on building a job board application using Flutter, Riverpod for state management, and Express.js as our backend, right? So in this video, we're simply going to implement the search feature, right? So let me just give you an overview of the search feature. For example, if I type in software, right, it should give me like software engineering vacancies, right? Okay, as you can see, we have DevOps, senior machine learning engineer, right? So we are simply going to implement this feature in Flutter, right? So if you still remember these vacancies, as you can see, whilst I'm typing in this text box, right? Whilst I'm typing in this text box, you can clearly see that it's appearing on this list view, right? On this list of, it's modifying this list of our vacancies, right? So to simply do that, we first need to go to our vacancy list widget, right? So let's go inside our vacancy list widget. So inside our vacancy list widget, we need to modify this from get vacancies provider to search vacancies, right? To search vacancies provider, right? So if we go back inside our controller, right? Let's go inside our vacancies controller. So if you go inside our vacancies controller, you can see that the first thing that we had a search query provider, right? A search query provider, which is a state provider. So a state provider is simply a provider for managing mutable state. In this case, our mutable state is going to be a string, which we initialize to be an empty string. That means that we are going to modify it when the user is typing, right? And then if we go inside our search query provider, you can see this is our search query provider right here. This is our search query provider, right? The first thing that we did is we initialized the vacancies, right, from our vacancy controller provider. And then we also initialized our query from our search query provider, this, which I talked about, which is a state provider, which is just a provider for monitoring mutable state, right? And then the first thing that we did we're going to check if this query is empty. So if this query is empty, we are simply going to just return get the vacancies, right? We are simply returning the vacancies from our server. Else, that means that the query is not empty. That means that the user typed something. Then we are going to we are going to just query our database for vacancies that the user typed, right? So that's why inside our vacancy list widget, we have modified it from vacancies to search vacancy provider, right? So that's what we simply did there. And then now let's go to our home screen, right? As you can see inside our home screen, we have the vacancy list widget. That's what we modified there. And then what we need to do, we need to take care of the we need to take care of the text input field, right? That's what we need to take care of, the text input field, right? So let's start dealing with the text input field. So let's find the text field, right? So we have this card text field right here, and then inside our text field we need another method. We need to create another method, right? So this method is going to be unchanged, right? So let's go inside our text field right here. Let's create a method called unchanged, right? So what this method does simply is just that it monitors state changes to our text field. That means when the user is typing, it will be just monitoring if there are any changes, right? So when the user inserts a text or delete a text, the onChanged method is the one that is responsible for just monitoring the state changes there, right? So basically it takes in a value, a method, and then takes in a value, and then wanted to just, now what we want to do is we want to read, right? So we are going to use reference. So what we need to do inside our home screen, let's just make sure that we modify our widget from stateless widget to consumer widget so that we can just watch Riverpod providers. Okay. All right, so now let's just import Flutter Riverpod like this, right? And then what we simply have to do now is let's read the search query provider .notify, right? And then dot state. So the state, in this case, our state is going to be a string, right? So this state is going to be a string. In this case, if we go back to our vacancy controller, we have this state provider. We initially set this to an empty string, right? So now we want to set it to our value. So the value is going to be what? Is going to be the text that the user types in, right? So that's what we are going to do here. Then we are going to set it inside this value right there, right? So now that we have done this, what we can simply do is let's go back to our vacancy list widget right here. So what we want to do is we want to check if vacancies dot is empty, so that we want to check if the vacancies are empty, right? So when the user is typing, so and then when the vacancies are empty, what we simply want to do is we just return a text, and then that text is just going to be no vacancies found. No vacancies found. And then what we simply want to do with this text is we simply want to wrap it with the center. We want to simply wrap it with the center widget, right? So let's wrap it with the center widget, right? Okay, child. All right, and then let's just style this text, right? It's going to be a text style, and then we'll give it a font size of 15, then color, give it a color of black. So let's just import material that, and then we'll also give it a font weight of bold. All right, so now that we are done with this, now I think everything is okay. So let's just, now what I'm simply going to do is I'm simply going to restart our emulator. Then let's try to search for vacancies, right? So it's saying that cast to object ID values search query. Add path ID model for vacancy. All right. So okay. So let's go inside our vacancy repository. I think there might be an error or something. Right, so the reason why we're getting an error is because we used URI.http instead URI.pass, right? So you need to use URI.pass, and then we then pass in our URL right inside the pass method. Because now, because we had used HTTP, it will make this, it will think that this is an ID, right? That's why we're getting that error, right? So now that we are done, but we need to fix a few things. So if I go back to our emulator right here, so I'll just try to search for more mobile. So as you can see that when we type a single letter, it then makes a request to our database. We don't want it to do that because we'll end up overwhelming our database by sending each request per each character that the user types, right? So to fix this, we need to introduce some form of delay inside our, when we are making a request to our database. So if we go inside our vacancy controller, right, search vacancies, right, and then go to search vacancy, right, what we are simply going to do is we are simply going to introduce a delay. So we use the await.future .delayed, right, and then we'll just pass in a duration. So the duration is going to be in milliseconds, it's going to be 3000, right? So that's going to be like a delay of 3 seconds, right? So now if I refresh our application, right, as you can see now, and then if I type in mobile, you can see that we are not longer making a request as the user types each character, right? We are waiting for about 3 seconds, then we will make a request. In this way, we'll minimize the number of unnecessary requests to our database, so that we don't overwhelm our database. So if you found this video, just make sure you click a thumbs up button and make sure you share the video. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next episode.